After 10 years in the French Navy, Maxime is changing his field of commitment. By building his first geodesic dome himself, Maxime discovers another way of living. With the SCOP, the Dome Workshop, Maxime turns this individual experiment into a rural social housing solution. Lightweight, durable and removable homes of 65 square meters built in just 1 month and for only 70,000 euros. The solution is truly something to dream about, so we went to meet him and discuss it with him.
I'm a former soldier. I enlisted when I was 18. I served from age 18 to 28 in the Navy as a tactical operator on helicopters. And then after that, I decided to stop for various reasons. And I discovered collective living spaces all over France. I lived in a collective place between Nantes and Rennes at Saulevache at the Manoir de la Grée for a few months, and I really liked it, and we wanted to do pretty much the same thing again. Anyway, in any case, a collective place with friends somewhere in France. And so while looking at real estate ads, we ended up here in Chastel. So we bought an old hotel, abandoned, that wasn't being used at all anymore. A beautiful building, you know, quite a lot of square meters. So the idea was to renovate it gradually while living there and being comfortable. And that's when I started building my own home. So a geodesic dome. And then it turned out that people liked what I had done, and quite a few people came to see it. I kept going, and now I've been making geodesic domes for 5 years. So here we're in a 43 square meter dome. This is the last dome assembled by the Dome Workshop. It's a place that's run by an association, and it was funded by BPI France to serve as a demonstration of a possible social housing solution for small rural towns, for small rural villages. So the goal is that we organize visits for mayors, for town halls, for local authorities, and to try to show what a lightweight dwelling is, a dismantleable dwelling, and how we managed to set them up on land like here in Chastel. We also have plans drawn for the Domi and the Domus, which is where we are now, which are freely accessible. We are under a Creative Commons license. So a company could be created tomorrow in Brittany, take our plans and start making domes. What's the idea? It's more about being an activist before being a builder. Our goal is not necessarily to revitalize. Well, to revitalize, that word can be a bit complicated sometimes, but just to have young people settle in rural areas and be welcomed and to live in healthy homes they're happy to be in. Not to get into renovations that take 3 or 4 years and end up divorcing in the end, because renovation is complicated. So that's really the goal, to counter the world of concrete, above all, not to have foundations, to be able to be self-sufficient. So from permit to construction, it really makes that possible. The vocabulary is mostly the same: military, activist, committed. I was also committed to the non-military side. Commitment is extremely interesting, but I really think that when I was in the military, I wanted above all to serve my country, which I believed in. I'm using the past tense to talk about my beliefs in the political world. And then I really believed I was serving the other human beings around me, actually being able to help. Today, I no longer believe in the military world, though I still think having soldiers is useful. But on the other hand, besides that, I know that I can still serve and be useful to be able to help my fellow man live in our beautiful country anyway. So yeah, it's kind of the same thing in terms of commitment. It's not for the same people. So here we're in a living space, so there are 43 square meters inside and 50 square meters outside. So we made a mezzanine, which is pretty basic, but the idea was to show that you can create spaces, so a bedroom upstairs and a kitchen underneath. It allows us to have walls that are a bit straighter when we want to fit in a traditional or reclaimed kitchen, like we did here. It also lets us create partitioned enclosed bathroom spaces, which we'll see later. So here we have a large living room, which also serves as a workshop space for us. So this is where the workshops to learn how to build domes take place. We have several types of window framing. We installed a salvage window to show that it's possible to use reclaimed materials in these domes. Why? Because we have a rather unique shape. It's a rhombic cuboctahedron. So it's a pretty good word for Scrabble, but besides that, actually, we have squares that appear compared to classic domes, where you have pentagons and hexagons. Here, we're really going to have a square. So when we remove this square, the 4 triangles at once, right away, we have the possibility to put in a reclaimed window much more easily, as you can see right here. Then we have the triangular windows that we make ourselves. So we buy the glass, the double glazed pane, and then we install it. We can place windows almost anywhere in this dome. It also adds a nice aesthetic touch. This one doesn't open, but the idea is more to create passive solar gain here. And also to bring light into the living space. In the dome, it's not really a problem, but that's often where it's interesting. We have the kitchen area. So here we've created spaces. It's not really functional, since it's mainly a place for workshops. But the idea was to show the spaces. So it's a kitchen we got from Le Bon Coin and set up here to show that there's still quite a lot of space for a family. So we're very interested in single-parent families. So divorces with 1 child or 2 children, and then there's only one person who keeps the house, and someone has to quickly find a new place close to the school. All of that causes quite a few problems. We also received requests from City Hall, which sparked my interest in this project. I had done it for collective spaces, so I live in a dome on a communal site. It's not meant to have a kitchen or bathroom. I use shared spaces. I also have my own place, a home with a bedroom and office. Whereas here, the requirement was more like, you have to live entirely in the place. So you need the kitchen, you need the bathroom, you need the water rooms, you need all of that. So now we can go see the bathroom. So same thing, it's a demonstration. There's nothing actually running on water. So we just put in some salvage furniture to show a bit of the spaces, the volumes. So what's the idea? It's that we have 1/8 of a dome actually. So here we're in 1/8. We always build this part here during construction. We use it as a highly secure scaffold because we're building a classic post and beam structure. It's our scaffold for the whole construction. And then once the construction is finished, we place them wherever we want in the dome. We create rooms by putting up partitions. This means the rooms are not too expensive, so we stay affordable inside the dome. So here we made a staircase that's very accessible. We have some elderly ladies from the village who wanted to visit and so on. And so it's not at all the kind of staircase we'd like in our domes, like a spiral or alternating tread stairs, which we usually prefer to save space. Well, here we wanted everyone to be able to use it. We've already tried to do open house events here and it worked very well. It's a large, bulky staircase, but it's meant to allow visits. Come on, let's go upstairs. And so we have 2 spaces that we created. Here we made just 1 bedroom. The goal was just, once again, to show that it was possible. But in theory, we could easily make 2 bedrooms with a spiral staircase. Here we made a small office space, and then we have a bedroom. So each time these are spaces that are 9 square meters at 1.80 meters from the ground, so according to the Carrez law. So there's actually a bit more, you know. You can see that with this rhombic cuboctahedron shape, we can really build up in height and get very, very close to the wall without having too much wasted space. Of course, we could easily create storage in all these spaces. And in the bedroom area, it's the same. We installed a Velux window. Again, we adapt to the shape of the rhombic cuboctahedron. We remove 4 triangles and install our Velux window. We can do it anywhere in the dome. And that's really the advantage of this shape. It's that we can adapt to people's needs. So, with the worker cooperative L'Atelier du Dôme, our real goal is to reach those small rural areas that are still close to surrounding cities, so that people can find work or find their way there quite easily. So, for example, we have a village called Saint-Privat du Dragon. It's not very far from where we are. They have a school. They have a senior housing facility with a small grocery store that's already operating in the village. Most renovations in the village are done except for a few large buildings. They are also offering us plots of land in the town center. So the idea here is that the SCOP files the permit applications. That's already done, 5 development permits. The municipality will offer a long-term lease, so people won't need to buy the land. They will pay a small rent, maybe 50 euros a month to use the land, to have the right to use the land. And then they just have to buy a house or even build it themselves. It must stay as removable housing, no foundations, no ground footprint, and no land encumbrance. And so, well, we managed to have access to home ownership much more easily. We're looking at 70,000 euros. We can have our home without buying the land, just with 90-year usage rights, to be completely free to live there long term. This is good for access. This is this type of dome. A dome. In 8 days, we're airtight with a team of 4. And then we'll count about another week to do insulation and interior finishing. And from there, actually, since we use what serves as our scaffolding during the construction to make the mezzanine, you have to count another week to do all the interior installation, the partitions, and so on. So actually, in 1 month, from the moment we arrive on the site, we're able to deliver a turnkey dome to the client. On this one, with the mezzanine, we have 65 square meters of usable space, measured under the Carrez law. Okay, and we're at 70,000 euros as it is now. With the partitions, with everything installed, we're going to be between 1,200 and 1,500 euros per square meter. We're at 1,200 euros per square meter when we take care of all the structural work with our 10-year warranty, and we leave the insulation and interior finishing to be done by the client. At 1,500 euros per square meter, we get a fully finished area, including the mezzanine, staircase, and partitions. Maybe even install a kitchen too. If it's reclaimed, we can include it, which is completely reasonable for a timber frame house. What I often say is that we can still get down to 600 euros per square meter even today for self-builders who buy all their materials and take care of everything themselves. When we arrived here, we didn't immediately build lightweight housing. We first showed our intention to renovate the old buildings. We also held a farmer's market for 2 years. And then through that, we started to really become part of the village, getting along with everyone. That's when we began discussing our lightweight housing. There was that. And then I have a rather legalistic way of seeing things. I really like to follow the laws whenever possible. We often hear that lightweight housing is impossible, but it's actually possible. So there's the development permit that exists for all types of housing as long as it's removable without a foundation, and that can be self-sufficient regarding utilities. So being able to doesn't mean you have the right to. And so when I applied for these permits here, first I was faced with a no from the town hall. No, it's not possible. We've never seen that. It won't work. Well, I'm actually pretty stubborn, so I wanted to see things through. And so after 5 rejections, for my first permits here, I got 5 rejections at first. And each time there was a rule. So they told me, well, no, you can't submit this permit because your 2 plots of land are separated by a municipal road. I said, yeah, okay, we'll submit 2 permits. 1 permit for this area, 1 permit for that area. So I submitted 2 new permit applications. A new rule was introduced. Submissions can't be made under an association's name. You have to be, or else hire an architect. I agreed to do it under my own name. I submitted it in my own name and so on and so on. And little by little, actually, it turned out they had nothing more to say, and the permit was approved like that. So here, we're not in what's called a buildable zone, but we also don't have a local urban development plan, a PLU. About 15% of the territory still doesn't have a PLU in France. You can find it on Géoportail Urbanisme, on the official website, .gouv.fr. These zones, why they're interesting is that as long as you're in the continuity of existing buildings, so in rural areas, it's pretty simple. You just need to find plots or parcels that are empty and have buildings around them. As long as we're in that situation, we can apply for a permit in these areas, even if before it was a meadow, a field, a natural area, or something else. We bought those plots, which were originally a meadow for donkeys when we bought them through the notary. And so those areas weren't classified as buildable. However, by submitting the permit, we showed the DDT, the Departmental Directorate of Territories, that we were close to existing buildings, that we were in the village, that we weren't going to encroach on natural or agricultural areas used for professional purposes. And so, in this context, the permits are approved.
Oh, you got arrested and wasted. It's so long since you've been calm. But you don't need any gestures or favors from anyone.
Here, the structure, so we're dealing with a rhombic octahedron. There are plenty of mathematical possibilities for the structures. It's self-supporting, the structure stands on its own. So we could lift it with a crane, move it 5 centimeters, set it back down, and nothing would happen, not a single crack. And so the idea is not to be fixed to the ground, just to be placed on the ground. For us, when it comes to foundations, we mainly use 3 types of light foundations, as we call them, or sometimes support pads. We use the screw pile, or well, there are several brands out there, but these are steel foundation screws that are inserted into the ground actually. So that's for fairly loose soils. There's another element we use quite a bit, which is when we're on rocky ground like here, it's to anchor into the rock. So actually we make holes about 20 centimeters wide. We put a steel rod in this hole and we make sure it's level. And we don't seal it, there's no chemical sealant, no concrete or anything like that, we just set it in place. And so the last element we use a lot on flat ground is tires filled with rocks. So here we're under the dome. We have a type of footing here with a bit of everything we know how to do in it. These tires are filled with gravel. So here you can clearly see that the tire has been pulled outward. I can't pull it anymore with a crowbar. So we really spread it out as much as possible, put the stones underneath using a sledgehammer and a hand sledge. And then we close the tire back over it, which makes the stones actually stay in place. They're really compressed inside the tire. Now we have an immovable mass, especially since there's a dome on top. But without the dome, it's pretty impressive. There's no concrete, there's no binder. Once the tire is set and filled with stones, it can't be moved. If the slope is gentle enough, we place it directly on the tire. Sometimes we put a wooden shim if we need to adjust the levels a bit. We plane it down to the exact thickness, and then we set it on top of that. We assemble our triangles next to the construction site with the outer face and the 3 studs. We assemble that, we bring this triangle to the site and we put them up like Lego, little by little on the site all together. We build row by row. We don't try to put up one whole wall section and then the next. That would work much less well. And then, once we finished our keystone and completed our assembly, well, then we can fill it with insulation and put in our interior finish. Our framework has a thickness of 25, so we have 20 centimeters of insulation. So here we're using Métis wool, it's upcycled. We like this insulation mainly for its ethical aspect. We buy it from Le Relais, so it's connected to Emmaüs, it's a co-op. So it's all our fabrics that are thrown away. And then at the front we have a 90mm panel. We have an air wool of at least 3 cm, 5 cm. And then another 19 panel. The floor, we make it exactly the same way as our walls. So same thing, there's 25 cm of floor. So actually we designed the house as a single shell. It's waterproof the same underneath as on top. And then under this floor, we leave 20 centimeters between it and the ground everywhere. That's a DTU rule, I think, 15 or 20 centimeters according to the construction standards for timber frame houses, for wooden floors. Panels are 3-ply and unpainted. We debated for a while about applying one coat and adding the triangles at the workshop so they'd be somewhat protected on site. Well, we found another solution that's interesting, especially for the joints. It's a tape for wells that's made to be painted. It sticks much better to raw wood, which is 3-ply wood, rather than to a surface that's already painted and much smoother. So we prefer to place our triangle. Between each joint, we'll put this weatherproof tape, and then, after that, we apply our first coat of paint. We use a roller to apply 3 coats. It's quite simple to do compared to other types of paint, like those applied with a sprayer, a spray gun, or something else. And so we really like this paint for that reason, because here everyone can really take part. And then for maintenance as well, it just means buying a roller and putting on a coat of paint once every 10 years. It's still a pretty simple kind of maintenance. So here, we're working on the outer layer. We're applying waterproof paint. We offer multiple color options and can match the roof color. And here, you can see our weatherproof tape, which has a slightly woven texture, You can see the first layer near the bottom. You can then see the 2 layers on top. You got it. If water runs along tape, it will naturally flow over our weatherproof tape and down to the bottom of the dome. You can also see we placed a piece of tape all the way at the end, because here there's a kind of drop of water, so it sticks out a little beyond the bottom of the floor. And that's where we can put gutters. So 8 gutters all along the dome that would go down gradually with the slope to collect water just outside. So waterproofing is really the tricky part of these lightweight habitats, especially for geodesic domes. And so to install the panes, we use double-sided tape in a rabbet that we previously made in the triangle. We place our pane on shims that we put on the lower part so that our pane is supported by those shims and not by the wood, which was the mistake I made with my first dome. This way the wood can move and won't crack the double-glazed window. And then, for waterproofing, we apply weatherproofing tape and then apply waterproof paint that overlaps onto the glass by about 5 centimeters. This ensures water flows over the paint, onto the tape, and then down. We find it interesting to see the tape because we're working on a dismantleable dwelling. So the goal is to be able to take apart either one element or all the elements so we can transport them elsewhere. When we see the tape, we know exactly where to use the cutter to take apart our triangle. When reassembling, we'll just need to reapply the tape and repaint. That's where all the changes I've made since my first dome until now have occurred. The idea is that we can easily change a triangle, that it can be taken apart more easily, and that it can last. What happens in 10 years? Actually, once the dome is built, what kind of maintenance needs to be done on it? So here, we have to apply a coat of paint to this dome every 10 years. If we want to change a triangle, well, actually, the screws are left visible on purpose inside the home so we can remove the triangle, take out the insulation, and work on it.
But she lost on the way, and everyone tries to.
On this dome, we want to install gutters because there are actually only 8 roof sections where the water runs off. So that makes 8 gutters of about 2.4 meters each. So it's not as complicated to do as you might think. All our water really pours all around the dome. We actually have, in our common area, 10,000 cubic meters of water collected from the roofs of our common building, and it's much simpler. With our system, a system that will allow us to reuse this water in the showers, in the bathroom, and so on. It's the same for energy autonomy. We have our solar water heaters on the common area. We could definitely imagine a system here with the solar water heater. And just like the solar panels, I often suggest to people to put them on the ground for 2 reasons. First, it's better to be able to orient them. In summer, winter, we really benefit from orienting these panels, and they need to be cleaned. If we install them high up, people usually say they'll clean the panel the first year, but then tend to forget about it. It's complicated, you need a ladder to get up there, and there's a risk. So having them on the ground, I think it's really very advantageous, especially in rural areas where we actually have space on the ground. Or maybe even build a carport to protect the car. It's just as easy to clean. And we're not going to put them 5 meters high on the dome, So this is a masonry heater that was built by Christophe. So you can find him online. It's called otilautonomie.fr. And so this ground wire, what's great is that it's designed to be removable. So actually, you open it up, the top part there, and then there are concrete blocks. So it's refractory cement, which are made to be easy to handle and transport. So we've only installed it recently, but you can quickly see the difference compared to our first stove, which wasn't a masonry heater. So here we're going to start heating at 9 p.m. and it will stop heating about 6 hours later. So for 6 hours, the temperature will keep rising. So at that point, it'll be the middle of the night. Then it will stop heating, but because of the building's thermal resistance, it will stay warm. The next morning, the house still had a comfortable temperature. We're in a sphere, so it looks like the air circulates well, and the heat too, so it's really very suitable. He sells it for 1,500 euros. All the parts are already prefabricated, you just have to assemble it at home. So it's a pretty cool product. No, I had no prior knowledge. I have a father who's very handy, that's for sure. But I didn't have a lot of knowledge. I had friends who were in the business. I don't mind making mistakes. So in my first dome, there were still a lot of mistakes that were made. That's what I'm trying to tell self-builders, you know, that you have to face mistakes head on and that you'll still be able to live in your home. We're trying to make it our profession and to build for social housing, for example. So we have much less room for error, that's for sure today. But at that time, when I built my first dome myself, I made a lot of mistakes. And yet we're still there today. So there were a lot of mistakes, mistakes like the placement of the windows, for example. Double glazing that I put way too close to the wood. The wood moves, so I have a window that cracked. I wanted to make my own triangular window frames. And that's when I came up against the world of carpentry, you know, which I really don't know at all. So making windows requires dry wood. It involves certain constraints. My window leaked for 2 years before I decided to fix it. And then it wouldn't open anymore, so I bought a Velux next to it to serve that purpose. There was a mistake that was really funny, and while I can laugh about it now, I definitely wasn't laughing at the time. I planned to do the interior finishing in the workshop. I had organized a participatory worksite. I didn't know anyone, there were 10 of us. And we managed to build the dome I live in within 6 hours. It was a real achievement for me. I had done all my paneling inside, so, well, we were happy, we celebrated, that's it. The next week all the interior was finished, but not the exterior, so we weren't watertight or airtight. I didn't even know about that then. So we did absolutely nothing. The following week there was a storm. Catastrophic. I had tarps that weren't big enough, so I would wake up at night to tighten the tarps, to reattach them, and so on. It was a nightmare. After that project I decided to always start with exterior finishing to make it watertight before working on the interior. Those are examples of how we build today and make it watertight and airtight in 8 days. My first project took 2 months to become watertight and airtight, with all the bad weather we had. There was, of course, a month before it was watertight. And so, yeah, I lost some insulation. My interior finishes got soaked, so after that, I had to dry them, cut them again, readjust them, etc. And that's to say that I really wasn't in the construction business at that time.
Life goes on, and I'm not done.
Above all, it was definitely the challenge aspect. Now that I live there and I've been inside several domes, I definitely don't want any other shape anymore. But that's more of a feeling. I totally understand that you can feel very comfortable in an A-frame house or in another shape, more square, more cubic. Once you've lived in a sphere like this, it's more than just being round. All the walls are truly spherical, drawing everything toward the dome's center. There's a kind of cocoon-like feeling, a sense of calm. It's not uncommon, when we visit the dome, to sit on the couch and just settle in for hours talking. I think it really puts people at ease. Every time I come into this dome, I tell myself that I want to change my own personal dome. To make one like this for myself. But I'll be patient, it's still usable, so I'll use it until the end. I really like this model. That's also why I try to offer it to others in rural areas and so on, especially for social housing, so that it can be accessible to everyone without necessarily having to buy the whole house directly, maybe being able to go through a lease or a rental. That's what we're trying to do, to show that it's a home like any other, but also that you really feel good in it because of its shape.